Welcome back to the show, everyone. I'm your host, as always, Charlotte Stebbing-Mills. If you are a long-term listener and have not yet subscribed to the show, then please do so you don't miss any episodes, because today we have one that is not to miss, which is our first returning guest to the show, which is Charlotte Spurway. You might remember her from season 1, where we were speaking about relationships at work. So Charlotte, aka Charlie, is one of the best relationship psychologists in the UAE. She uses a unique combination of psychotherapy and coaching to support men and women as they struggle with relationship dynamics within themselves and with others as well. And today we're going to be diving into a really interesting topic of narcissism. So Charlie, welcome back, and tell us why we're talking about narcissism.
Well, it seems to be the most popular kind of pop psychology thrown around word in Dubai and other places at the moment, on socials, on LinkedIn and conversation, whether it's personal relationships, whether it's workplace. It just seems to be talked about all of the time. Like, they're a narcissist is basically what I'm hearing a lot on the grapevine.
Interesting. And it is something that comes up frequently, both in like people's personal lives, but also kind of in the workplace. And sometimes it's something that's almost easy for people to say, and it slips off the tongue, is that, oh, it's like, it's just the way they are, they're a narcissist. And it's like, hang on, why are we brushing over that? Like, let's just peel it back a little bit and look into that, because I mean, just before we hit record here, you was talking to me about like perhaps some of the numbers around like how many people actually could be showing traits of narcissism, and it's sort of surprised me, but it didn't in other ways as well. So tell us a little bit more about that, and then let's dive into what narcissism actually is and unravel this topic.
Yeah, of course. So I was really privileged enough to be in London at the beginning of September and actually have therapist training with Dr. Davusala, or Dr. Ramli Davusala, I should say, for those of you who don't know it. And she's basically an American psychologist, clinical psychologist, and she's done a lot of research. And she says most of the figures have come out of actual academic studies, so that's a bit skewed. But she thinks, with all of her experience, that's actually around 1 in 6 people could have narcissistic traits. But more scarily so, she says certain areas, whether it's city or like metropolitan areas or certain industries, can basically attract far more people, or if you wanted statistics, that might have narcissistic traits. And I think a big point to start today is that narcissism is a personality trait. You might be mild to severe, so it's a continuum line. You might be slightly in it, or you might be on the extreme version of it. So whenever we're talking today, just remember that it could be, very weak, or it could be very severe, depending on how it comes across to others.
Yeah, and typically it's one of those things, where I think we notice it more when it's severe, but we can also pick on other signs and some of the traits, I think, that might help us be more aware in the way that we then approach other people, in the way that we communicate as well. And I think that can add a lot of value. One of the reasons why I was intrigued when you started to tell me about the training that you've done and bringing this kind of topic to the table was because my mind is very much thinking about inclusive well-being and what does that look like in a workplace. And sometimes there are so many parts of the conversation that are completely excluded that they just get brushed under the carpet. So I'm really looking forward to understanding from you, like, how do we identify a narcissist or the narcissistic traits, and how do you even define narcissism? Let's start there.
Okay, so first of all, anything I say today, if you've got 1 or 2 traits, or you think you know somebody who goes, I can identify that with that person, just because you've got 1 or 2 probably doesn't make you a narcissist, right? It's when the layers of traits start stacking up and we're going, oh, okay, they've got that, there's that, there's that, there's that. And then when we start to have a broader range of these traits building up, that's when we might go, okay, are they now on that narcissistic spectrum continuum line? And do they sit mild to severe? And ultimately, just because somebody's self-righteous, it doesn't make them a narcissist, right? And then, we've spoken about attachment styles before. Just because someone's an extreme avoidant doesn't necessarily mean they're a narcissist. Right? So ultimately, you wanted the definition. So I'll give you the definition of Dr. Davusala, just because it has to be accurate. So narcissism is an interpersonally maladaptive personality style that encompasses a wide spectrum of traits and behavioral patterns that present in different ways, from mild to severe, vulnerable to malignant. That's the definition. But what does that actually mean? Okay, so ultimately, there are 6 different types of narcissism. Do we want to start there?
Definitely, yeah.
Do we want to go with traits first?
No,
Where do you want to go?
Let's go with the 6 types first. I think that's most important, because I didn't know there were 6 types of narcissism, so I want to understand that, because yeah, it's got to be relevant.
Okay. So the first one, and the one that I would say everyone most likely knows, would be called like the grandiose narcissist. So they're basically the ones who have great game. They're super charming, they're super shiny, they're very ambitious, they're very charismatic, probably can come across as arrogant, but as well as charming, right? So these are the people that everybody gravitates towards. Now, some people might call this swagger, but depending on, again, how many of these traits start to stack up, this is when their success and their glamour ultimately start to believe that they have a grandiose superiority to you.
Okay.
They start to believe that they are better than you. So that's almost the first kind of type of narcissism, which is grandiose. The second one is called vulnerable narcissism. So this is where ultimately they hold more of a victimized, anxious type. These people genuinely aren't leaders in the workplace, right? Unlike the grandiose. So a vulnerable narcissist is somebody who basically is kind of like, I'm never going to succeed because they have more money than me, or they went to a better school than me. So they have this deep and negative, toxic vulnerability around almost victimizing themselves, right? Which can link back to that insignificant, like I can't be as good as you because. So it goes into that toxic negativity realm. But ultimately, they are victimizing. They're grandiosing the victimization of themselves.
Okay, and is that dissimilar to inferiority complex? Is this more of an extreme version?
Yeah. So again, once we've got more and more traits linking up, if we still think we're better than somebody else, or we're starting to pull the rug from another, it goes back into that, am I being more focused on myself? Which is therefore making me have a narcissistic trait, because nobody could be as bad as me. And the key thing around narcissism is the lack of empathy, right? And it's the dismissiveness of others for whatever the reason. But then we invalidate them, we dismiss them because we're focusing on ourselves. It's quite self-centered.
Okay.
So again, the third one in the region is really common, is communal narcissism. So this is basically where, communal narcissism is like, if I give above normal levels for others, I am grandiose. So if I do above levels of humanitarian work or charity work, or, the interesting one is spirituality and these culty spaces of I'm giving back. So whenever it's a communal narcissist, it's basically like, my way is better than your way. Like, I know. And there's no deviation from that path. Spitefulness, again, the invalidation, the dismissiveness, if you don't agree with what I'm saying.
Okay, makes sense.
Okay. For self-righteous. So a self-righteous narcissist is very black and white in their belief systems, and they think that they know better than anybody else. It's almost these robotic obedience in their belief system that almost devalues any human emotion or frailty or mistake. And then it kind of goes back to, well, because I'm self-righteous, it's my way or the highway. They'll keep upping the bar, the line, and you're never going to succeed, right? Because they keep wanting to be better and they're right. So it goes into this, like, I need to be special. So it's my way or your way. There's no in between. Like, you're never going to get here because I remain here. Okay.
Tell us, what are the others?
Number 5 is neglectful. And this one's quite quick, but that very, very detached. This is literally like lack of empathy on all levels and a huge disregard for others. And this is an interesting one, because with narcissism, most narcissists have cognitive empathy, which means they can access empathy when they want to, when they need to.
Yeah.
But down a certain path, a neglectful narcissist will just have literally no emotional intelligence, no emotional empathy, no emotional bandwidth for another person, which is a really interesting one, which we'll unpick further later, because this is ultimately the core of narcissism. And when obviously you're interested in the workplace and potential leaders and co-workers, you know, I remember when we had a conversation once, and it was like, what makes a good leader? Every single person will go emotional intelligence. Every single person will go approachable. So why is it that certain leaders can be like this at the very beginning of nurturing a new relationship with a new colleague, but then down the line, they start dismissing and invalidating? And I would say, again, if they've got that stacking up of traits, are they actually accessing cognitive empathy, which is where they can turn it on and turn it off when it serves them?
So it comes back to me again, right?
Exactly. And then the sixth one, which we won't go into much, but it's malignant. And this is where we move towards like sadism and psychopaths. And ultimately it's, I'm always in control because I want other people to fear me, and I'm okay with that.
Okay.
So this is where we're on the brutal, severe end of spectrum. And it's very engineered, but obviously we're not going there because that would go into psychiatry, which is not where we need to go today. So yeah, those are your 6 types. But ultimately, a narcissist needs to have a level of specialness to them. They need to use whatever evidence they need to create the delusion that they are better than others. Because narcissists don't want you to know this, but they actually have great insecurity deep within the psyche. And they need all of this grandiose self-righteousness, I'm better than you, make other people smell small, so that they can protect their own ego, which is an interesting concept.
It is. And it's funny because as you're sharing these types, my mind is matching people that I know, right? And I'm sure perhaps our listeners are doing that as well. And there's one leader that springs to mind, but I can't pinpoint which one he would be because it feels like it's probably a bit of a combination of a few of them. Is that possible?
Yes. So again, you could be like, I don't know, 10% in one, 15% in others. It can be very common for at least 2 and sometimes 3, but more than that, probably not so. But especially with it's the neglectful narcissist, because most narcissistic traits go back to this cognitive empathy, where they can access it when they're all shiny. And you know, out of the literature, we call it the shape-shifting face around narcissism, or they're great at camouflage. So when you first meet someone, especially if they're grandiose, especially if they're self-righteous, especially if they're like a communal narcissist, they want you to love them. Right? When I say love, I don't necessarily mean romantically, but they really want you to be one.
And
right?
The person that I just was thinking about when I asked about the combination, this person specifically is a very, very, very senior leader. I'm going to be careful what I say here. And he is somebody who knows how to switch it on dependent on the status of somebody else. So if he's around other people that he also deems as special and better than, he will like switch on this charisma like nothing else, but then close the door when he's with people who are in his eyes perhaps less than. Then that neglectful side of him will just comes right out. Is that accurate to what you're saying? Is that a good reflection?
Yeah. So again, obviously not knowing who you're talking about, we'd have to look at stacking the traits to see where it falls. But for sure, I mean, narcissists are great at camouflage. They're great at changing their face. They're great, like kind of shift shapers, if you like. Because in the very beginning, if they started to unpick somebody's self-esteem, to unpick somebody's self-validation, sense of identity, they're never going to fall. They're never going to go into admiration. They're never going to go into respect. They're never going to get healthy empathy from another, which if they don't have those things, then trust is never created. Right? And then they're not going to be superior. So when you say they can switch it on, the hard truth is, Charlotte, is that manipulation and dominance of others can only come once a level of safety has been created. Without safety, there's no trust. Without safety, there's no admiration. Without safety, there's no respect. Without safety from a healthy person, there is empathy, right? And then we will do lots of things for these people in the workplace or in a romantic relationship. And it's that sweet spot where the cognitive empathy switch can cut off. I've got what I want now. I've got my supply of people. Now here's a contradictory term, but I've got my supply of fans. Because narcissists never want equals. They always want fans.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
Because if they're an equal, they're not going to be seen as special or superior.
Yeah.
So to create a fan base, you have to be loving, respectful, nurturing, and have a great deal of like knowledge of some kind, right? We admire people who bring something to the table, right? Whether that's their knowledge of something, their intelligence, how they treat us, how they're emotionally empathetic to us. That then creates admiration. And at that point, we can then start to abuse that trust that we have within that relationship dynamic, whatever that relationship is.
Yeah. Oh, that makes so much sense. So are people born narcissists? Like, are we born like these types at some end of the spectrum? Like, or is this something that is learned? Or is that too binary?
Well, this is a great question. And I guess this is one that we all want to know. And we could go into the nurture nature debate. We could go into the psychology and the papers of twins separated at birth and different environments. So I definitely do believe that depending on the environment you were raised in, depending on healthy communications and the love you had in a family dynamic, just like attachment, it can definitely skew your orientation. When we get into personality disorders, however, there obviously is linked, and I'm not qualified to give this answer because I'm not a psychiatrist, but it is linked to potential like generational DNA exchanges, etc. Right? So I believe that we can always learn to be better, but it's a very complex scenario. And again, Dr. Ramney would say that narcissists can't actually ever fully change. They can become aware. And because all of this stuff about well-being, it's on Audible, it's on podcasts, it's on books. Even narcissists have therapy to some extent, right? They're learning about this stuff. They're learning how to be a healthier or better relationshipper, right? As a word. So with that combined cognitive empathy, like narcissists are normally very intelligent. They're very aware. They're very easy to manipulate the scenario. Whether it's intentional or unintentional is not the issue here. But they can start to ploy that data of information to be able to switch on or not. Just like the example you gave, where why does a narcissist not be incredibly spiteful at an open public forum versus when it's behind closed doors in a home or an office? That shape-shifting camouflage mask is removed.
Yeah, exactly.
So here's the key thing. People know how to behave. It's whether they choose to access that control in the moment when they're triggered to be able to have a healthier coping strategy.
Yeah, it's like it's a power that's being used for good or not, right? Like you said, and if somebody wants to, really assert some kind of control, then at least they're moving in the direction of, trying to be a healthier person, healthier human being, right? That will have a better imprint on somebody else.
Control's an interesting one, isn't it? Because if someone with narcissistic traits, they need control of people, of situations, of environments, whether that control is perceived or real, they need control. Because without control, they have a great fear that their fragile, insecure kind of psyche will unravel, and then almost they'll be found out. Or vulnerable people or weakness is negative. And therefore I can't be seen as that. I need to be seen as superior, charming, charismatic, successful. you know, all of these things come through.
Is there such thing as a person with narcissistic tendencies who, I guess it depends on where they are on the spectrum, but is there like some good examples of people? They're good people, right? Because I feel like we're talking about narcissists are these like terrible people, and obviously like the higher up the intensity of the spectrum we go, chances are that's where we're going to see more of that spite. But I mean, is there a an angle to this that isn't so narcissists are terrible and like the worst people in the world?
Okay, well, we could go with the communal narcissist, for example, right? They ultimately are giving back.
Yeah. So something
Now,
good.
to some degree, something good is coming out of it. Yeah, good point. They are trying to help others.
Yeah.
But the change where there is no deviation, that is the most and best and right and kind of black and white scenario, that this is everything. And it's when anybody who doesn't agree with that goodness or that movement, that's when the narcissism come in. So lots of good things can come out of charity work, humanitarian work. You know, even if we talk about meditation, right? This is the wellness theory. You talk about meditating in the workplace and reading self-help books and doing all of these practices. Now, they are all good. But if someone starts pushing this to a level that dismiss and invalidates anybody else's thoughts, opinions, or human right to do it or not, or it becomes pushed upon to the extent, well, if you don't believe this or do this, and it's that undercutting of then self-esteem, self-worth, loss of identity, and you're almost getting that person to question what is up and down. That's when it becomes an issue.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that makes sense for sure. Okay.
I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, no, it really does. And I think there's the optimist in me was asking that question for sure. Because I think deep down I don't kind of know where the answer could go.
But again, like some of these traits are incredible. Like you need to be charismatic, intelligent, driven, shiny to run companies, to push organizations. You know, you need it to drive, you know, companies, corporations, whoever's an entrepreneur, whatever. These traits are amazing to get things moving. Doesn't necessarily mean it's nice or we need to invalidate others to do it.
Exactly. It's like the catalyst part can be really good, right, in some of those tendencies, but it's the how we do it, right? It's like people can get to the top, but it's no good if you trample over everybody on the way, right? Because then you lose all of those, you know, credibility.
Exactly. And this is where, building on what you just said, we need to remove business and then the people.
Exactly.
Because the people are not robots. And this is the difference. Use these skills for business, but you don't need to invalidate, emotionally dismiss, you know, pick away, nitpick and jab at somebody's sense of self.
And that's what we've seen, right? There's a lot of feedback around leadership, not just in this region, but where that is happening, there is a lack of empathy. That doesn't necessarily mean that every leader is a narcissist, but it does mean we need to be more switched on to perhaps how do we spot people who are perhaps showing these narcissistic tendencies or traits, or who's just having a bad day and something else might be going on with them, which actually in itself might be a cry for help, because that wouldn't be a narcissist. So tell us more about how to spot them as well.
Yeah, so this is a really interesting point that you said, because, you know, I was saying at the beginning, there is no emotional abuse. In the beginning, they've got their great shiny selves, right? They're trying to get you to be a fan of them, because ultimately, as soon as a narcissist is no longer has your admiration, they're going to start gunning for you, or they're going to find other people's supply. So again, in the workplace, or whether it's personal relationships, as soon as someone is no longer serving someone with narcissistic traits, you will just get dismissed, and they will monkey branch to another person in the workplace, right? So you will completely get disregarded, which feels awful, because you're left going, what on earth happened? What did I do wrong? And we'll go into the person on the other end, I'm sure, in a moment. But it's when that happens that we go, right, well, no emotional abuse was happening at the beginning. Okay. So a narcissist is very good at planting just enough good that will make you question the bad.
Yeah.
So when you were saying, is it just a bad day?
Yeah.
Or does it become a pattern? We're looking for the pattern over time.
Yeah.
Just because, and I know you well, Charlotte, just because you or I have a bad day doesn't mean we'll start emotionally invalidating, dismissing, and trying to deliberately make someone feel awful.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost like true colors would just shine right through then if somebody is then behaving that way.
Exactly. Or you're quicker to go, I'm so sorry I snapped earlier, and own it. Apologize. There's no excuse. I've had a rough morning. I'm so sorry for making you feel that way, right? You would own it, and you would do the appropriate things to communicate that if you made a mistake. Genuinely, again, we don't know where we're on the spectrum, but narcissists won't, because they love domination. They love manipulation. You know, they crave attention seeking. So if you're no longer their fan, they don't care. They'll go find other supply and get attention seeking from somebody else where they're shiny and they're being validated all over again, right? And it's that level of arrogance and entitlement that they really don't care about others.
Yeah.
They want to pretend that they don't need people. Yeah. Because if they need people, it's a weakness. But they ultimately do. Yeah. Because they need compliments.
Yeah.
They need praise. They need that admiration, because without it, they will start dominating, manipulating, and making you feel worthless in order for them to feel better. And that's not a great place to be.
It sounds like such a lonely, isolating way to live your like, right? And I don't, that's the empathy coming through for narcissists now, isn't it? But I think tell me about
So empathy, somebody who's able to access healthy empathy, or if we're more anxious, preoccupied, possibly, we will then access toxic empathy, which is where our ability to be sad or thoughtful of others starts to then have a detrimental effect on us. And this is where we start over-helping, over-giving, giving way too many second chances, which really does happen in romantic relationships, especially.
100%.
And in the workplace, how many of those bad days need to happen before there's a whistleblower? Before you go and speak to HR. Right? Because it goes, oh no, they are just having a bad day. Oh, maybe they're going through a divorce at home. Oh, they've just lost their mother, right? Oh, they've been made redundant. Whatever it is, again, we can give somebody a buffer, because that's what healthy people do. But when we start using toxic empathy as a way of allowing, almost agreeing, almost pulling a blind eye on somebody's unhealthy behaviors, that's when it becomes an issue.
And you then are enabling them, and at the same time you're creating suffering for yourself and potentially other people that might be involved in that same scenario.
But the trap is you're already admiring again. And that's what a narcissist wants, because you're back in admiration with that empathy.
Sounds like a real toxic scenario, but whether that's romantic or obviously in the workplace. Is there anything else, before I ask this question, is there anything else like that needs to be on our radar to perhaps spot some of this toxicity? You've already mentioned quite a lot of traits there, but is there anything else that stands out that you're like, nobody really is aware of it?
I think it's the gaslighting to come in. Right? And this is more of a feeling on you on the receiving end of this. But if someone's grandiose superiority or arrogancy or self-righteousness is coming through to the detrimental delusion that they believe so heavily that their version is right, and it's in this fantasy realm, right, of what they believe to be so strong, and there is no deviation from that, that's a place where there's no point in even trying any further. Because here's the kicker with all of this around narcissism: whatever the relationship, whatever the dynamic, unless you fully submit to the needs of that narcissist, you are going to come out scathed in one way or another. Because these are people who do not have the ability to access certain things consistently because they don't want to. Because rules don't apply to them. Rules apply, Charlotte, to normal people. And if I'm a narcissist, I'm not normal, am I? Because I'm better than. And it goes back to that superiority.
I'm thinking of a specific person who we worked with from a burnout perspective, and part of her journey in burning out in the first place was working in an organization with a team that with a company that she climbed the ladder of, very well intentioned. She, I think, was on the receiving end of some narcissism and didn't realize it until she got to that point. She was at that head office level. When she got to that head office level, and suddenly she thought she would have a voice to be able to influence some things within the organization, at that point she recognized, I am like, just barking up the wrong tree here because nobody is listening. Because then she started to become more aware of some of these narcissistic tendencies, and then how she was treated when she would raise some of these concerns that she had. And over time, that's what ended up leading her to us, because she burned out completely, ended up leaving that position and getting herself kind of back on track. But she really shrunk herself emotionally, her identity, everything, just to get a seat at that table, because she had this I guess internal drive herself to think that it could change something. And then it was almost like a reality check. Oh, hang on. And as soon as she resigned, it was like cut off, done, deleted from their social media and things like this. Like, it was like she never existed within the organization, which then also left a mark on her. And so it just makes me think about like the reality of this, because she was able to walk away and resign, right? And I mean, there's a lot of people that may be in that scenario and either don't feel empowered to be able to walk away. But not only that, there'll be people in romantic relationships or have family members that can't just maybe get up and walk away, or it's not as clean cut as just putting in a resignation. So I'd just love to hear your thoughts on that and how that lands.
Yeah, so we often forget that burnout or exhaustion comes from a repeated long-term lack of our needs being met. And whatever that need is, over time, it starts to have a huge detrimental effect upon us. And that being said, every single person deserves to be heard and seen and validated, because every single feeling is a feeling that cannot be proven right or wrong, which many people start to do. You shouldn't feel that way because, or don't be so ridiculous, such and such got it worse. That is invalidating, that is dismissing. And that's not what good leaders should be doing.
Exactly.
Right? So it's hearing it, it's seeing it. And what we also don't forget is, whether it's workplace or romantic relationships, once there's a level of respect, and this person you're talking about clearly had a level of respect for the people above her, because she wouldn't have stayed there for that long. Right? She was obviously admiring, respecting, caring about the organization. She was built into it, right? She was driven for it. At that point, that trust that I was talking about earlier, that level of safety, that level of loyalty has already been built. And it's at that point, we don't want to cast or attack reputation or integrity of somebody we romantically love, or love as we want to work for them, admire, respect, or care about. So it's easier to internalize this on us. And this is the problem. I'm not good enough. It must be me.
That's exactly.
I must have got that wrong. I'm going to start to self-punish, right? I'm going to take responsibility for the breakdown of this conversation or this argument. Frustration, conversation. It must be me. I probably didn't articulate it enough. And then, because that's level of gaslighting around memory, around thoughts, around feelings, I then really start to question my up and down. Right? And that's where we start going into fantasy ourselves, in denial. How can somebody I admire? How can somebody I respect?
Yeah.
How? Because they're at this level, right? Therefore, I want to be there. Therefore, they've got that superiority of some kind.
Yeah.
Is it me? Am I in denial?
Yeah.
So we start to have a toxic level of self-blame, self-doubt, confusion. And this is a bad place to be, because as soon as that starts to teeter into loss of self, then everything starts to kick in, whether it's anxiety, because we don't know what to believe or think anymore. We're questioning so much. We get overthinking. Then we go into perfectionism. Most successful people in the workplace are a high achiever. That, combined with having to deal with someone with narcissistic traits, is a playground almost for confusion. And then we go down that line of, okay, well, I'm helpless. I'm going to start to isolate myself. I become the black sheep. Maybe I numb. How many times in the workplace or in a romantic relationship do we know people numb or they freeze? They don't want to say the wrong thing because they know if I say the wrong thing, I'm going to get dismissed or invalidated, or it's just too much. So I choose then to not say anything. And then ultimately I'm being manipulated, I'm being dominated, which are both narcissistic traits.
That's really interesting. So do narcissists produce narcissists? Like, is that...
Well, behavior can be modeled and behavior can be learned.
Yeah, it's interesting. So then when we look at culture in an organization...
But are we then going into sympathetic nervous system where we're just responding to protect ourselves from a threat? Whether that threat is conscious or unconscious, are we then numbing, shutting down, or even leaving because we just don't want to be in it anymore?
But either
way,
now,
is that a narcissistic trait or is that a coping strategy of the nervous system?
Yeah, I would say it's probably more a coping strategy, isn't it? Yeah.
And even that person, if they see somebody else needing emotional empathy in a healthy way, are they still going to be able to access that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So does a narcissist breed a narcissist, or does it just lead to, sympathetic nervous system being triggered, maybe our attachment system being triggered, maybe, our ability to not want to have criticism or self-doubt or self-blame or be judged, or that gremlin voice of, it's you, there's something wrong with you, you're not good enough, like, come on. These people are up here. They must be amazing because they've got here. Right? I don't know if that's narcissist breeding narcissists.
No, exactly. So how do we protect ourselves then? Or people that we know that we might suspect to be in a narcissistic relationship? Because we you hear often people, I've heard people say to me, it's like, I've got a friend who she's with someone and they're definitely a narcissist, but my friend's not seeing it. And it's like, okay. So like, and it's playing out in the workplace and probably in other areas of life. So tell us more about, like, how do we like improve this dynamic that's in our society?
Yeah. So first of all, the first one I'm going to say, because I'm always an advocate for it, but get a therapist, because you need a safe space to be able to pull what is happening to you, where you're not going to be invalidated, right, or dismissed. Because even friends might go, oh, it's not that bad, come on, right? You've got this paycheck. What do you expect, right? That's not a safe space. Okay. So get a space where you can actually talk through how you're truly feeling. Because if you don't, that confusion, that constant questioning, is it me? Is it them? Right? You need space to be able to work through, because loss of self is a scary place if anyone's ever got there. And it sounds like a big term. You might not term it as that, but it's that overthinking. It's that constant round robin or perfectionism. I've got to achieve, I've got to please, I've got to do this, I've got to perform. That's when you're losing that loss of self. Then through therapy with a good therapist who's trained with this, like, ultimately you are never going to be able to change them. Right? They're not your controllable. But what you can start to do is develop tools and coping strategies which go into awareness. And everyone talks about mindfulness, but it's removing yourself from a situation so that your emotions are more in control. It's starting to believe multiple truths exist. Yes, they were nice to you on that day, on that occasion. Yet they did help you when your father died, right? They did show up with that cognitive empathy on that day.
Yeah.
But does that mean they can scream and shout at you here, or dismiss this project you've just done, or belittle you on these other occasions, right? So it's understanding that multiple truths can be happen. And many of my clients, when they're involved with a narcissistic boss or partner, they start to get into the trap of psychoanalyzing the whys of the person. Now, sometimes it can help, but it doesn't matter their whys. No. It doesn't matter if you know the psychology or, you know, me as a psychologist, it doesn't matter if I know all of the reasons why somebody is doing something or not. Why did he say that? She say that? She do that? He do that? Yeah. It doesn't matter. Yeah. Because that doesn't affect my internal world. Yeah. So it's about building a bigger resilience of yourself with your tools and resources, so that you, as much as possible, are not affected by an uncontrollable. And that's a difficult place to get to on your own.
Yeah, definitely. And support is absolutely necessary, isn't it? Because it's, I think it's a tough thing for somebody to admit as well, right? So I'm sure there are a lot of people suffering silently that don't know how to get out of it, or maybe don't know they're in it. Is that quite common?
Very common.
Yeah.
Very, very common. Because it goes back to earlier when I was saying, when there's enough good days, good moments that outweigh the bad, our brains are very good at going back to the positive. This is why people stay in abusive relationships for so long, right? Because we glorify the good. It's the same in the workplace. We glorify the good, and we self-blame and self-doubt and take ownership of the bad when there's any level of respect or admiration for the other.
Yeah.
And asking for help is still, unfortunately, today perceived by many that it's a weakness. Whereas I would say therapy is a place to get education. Yeah. Therapy is a place to actually learn and grow and be better. And especially if you want to climb a career ladder, or you want to be a better leader one day, or you want to change what you're experiencing, or even in your personal realm, like education around relationships and emotional regulation is probably the finite tool that we all need to use. Now, I know I'm biased as a therapist, but ultimately, we're talking now. How many other people have you spoken to today? How many other people today will you continue to speak to until you go to bed? Yeah. If you've got a better hold on your emotional regulation and others, and you know your North Arrow, right? Yeah. Knowing your North Arrow is different than being selfish. It's different from questioning yourself. Yeah. Sense of self is so vitally important. I don't know if I've answered your question there, Charlotte, but it's talk to somebody who knows, it's get education, and it's have those conversations, because it won't change. Yeah, they're not going to change.
So,
but you can change your reaction to it.
Yeah, 100%, 100%, and I think that could be very true of a lot of struggles, right, when it comes to personal development, relationship development, things like that. How do we help those that are suffering in silence, or they don't know that they're in that scenario? Because 1 in 6 people, roughly, right? Think of a work.
Dr. Davusala argues it's higher in metropolitan areas or certain industries. And I would say, based in the region where we are, the affluency, the job titles, and all of these things, it's probably higher than 1 in 6, if we wanted to admit it.
So we are swimming in this region.
It's not, people aren't going to like that.
And some people, no, right? But hopefully they're listening to this with some context, right? And an open mind. And you don't have to agree with anything on these podcasts, but it's worth just thinking it through. What do you believe? What do you think? Because ultimately that affects society, right? And the people that we're around. So I really hope that our listeners do that. But if we are exposed to so many people on the spectrum, right? It's safe to say that we probably all have some kind of narcissistic tendency if that number is that high, but perhaps maybe on a really like mild end of the spectrum. This is big generalization. But like, because there'll be people listening to this that think, okay, well, I know someone like that, I know someone like that, I know someone like that. But I guess they need to then think that next layer of, okay, but to what extent do they behave in such a way, I guess? Like what's driving that? But my question is, how do we improve this? How do we improve our surroundings and the people that we are with and our own like experiences of life when we're not talking about it? Like I've already learned so much from you just today, just from this conversation. And like, so is awareness the key to start with? Like, and then we can actually start to grow as individuals to be able to then not only notice narcissists, but also then be able to actually take the actions we need so we don't fall into their traps. Like, what's the move we need to make, if any?
Yeah, so it is awareness, it is education. But just like, you should have done something already this morning because you already have that education, didn't mean you did. Right? Let's take something basic, like the first thing you do is to drink a glass of water. How many people know that in the literature but still don't?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? It could be anything from small or big. We know what we should be doing. We know we shouldn't eat the McDonald's, but we still do. Right? We know we shouldn't necessarily have alcohol, but we do. Right? So sometimes education and awareness is not enough.
Yeah. I get it.
And this is the one where we need to have a want of a change of behavior. We need to want to be more regulated. We need a want to be a better relationshiper. We need a want to communicate better.
Yeah.
Right? It comes from self-growth. It comes from wanting to truly be better. Because when it comes to all of this stuff, we never do it at school. We never do it at university. We never do it really even in corporate training. Right? Whenever do we talk about people, right? And how we communicate and how to be better at relationships, no matter what that relationship is. We don't.
Yeah.
So it is education for sure. It is awareness. That's always going to be powerful. I'm a strong believer. Always keep reading, always keep listening.
Yeah.
Right? But it's at that point with, okay, now I've got that education. How do I apply it?
Yeah.
And again, that's where you do need a practitioner to be able to help change that, because we've got hard wiring and then we've got soldering, right? And we can start to change the way we think and behave and communicate, because I'm sure you've heard of neuroplasticity, for example. Like, we are sponges to knowledge and change, okay? And if we practice something enough, it will happen.
Yeah.
But we can only control us.
Yeah, exactly. We can definitely only control us, and I definitely agree. Like, the awareness and education will only take us so far. But where does someone start that might be listening to this? Let's say we've got a leader of a large organization that's thinking, okay, well, if those are the stats, and perhaps they've noticed there's something within their leaders or within their teams, and they need to step in and have some kind of intervention, like, what does that look like?
Yeah. So I would say, for sure, if you're already starting to doubt yourself, if you're already having that gremlin in your head, like starting to almost, beat yourself up with that baseball bat, like running rogue. If you're starting to feel emotional, if you're starting to feel dysregulated or triggered, whether that's anger, frustration, sadness, really need to go and speak to someone, because you can capture it before it starts to take more deep root. Go and speak to someone trusted in HR. If it's not in HR, speak to somebody like myself, right, outside of the organization. Ask around people you trust. And this is the big one. It has to be people you trust, because as soon as you start speaking to somebody that's not in a safe, confidential space, if you're already feeling on the rocks, it could have more of a detrimental effect to what you seem to trust. So speak to trusted people, speak to someone at HR. Get yourself a therapist to talk through how you're actually feeling, because honestly, most people, especially my clients, when they first come to me, they don't really know how they're feeling. They might say they're angry, they might say they're frustrated, but what is that? Right? What is that? and they've never had a time to kind of unpack it and articulate what's going on. And when you know that and you're more emotionally regulated, maybe you can be that whistleblower, right? Yeah. Because sometimes when it's a narcissist, no matter how amazing our communication is, no matter how good all of the techniques are used, no matter how much it's that I feel stuff or I don't blame you, this is hurting, right? It's not a you thing, it's a me. You know, even in my couples therapy, no matter how perfectly constructed a communication is, somebody who doesn't want to hear it,
they're not going to hear it,
who can't access empathy, who always believes they're right and wrong, are going to continue to invalidate and dismiss. So you cannot sometimes expect to talk or communicate to a leader, to anyone, because if they're already this way inclined on the spectrum,
for sure,
it's just going to hurt you more. And I would say we shouldn't be putting ourselves in those scenarios ultimately, because we're just going to come off more scathed, and that isn't helpful.
No, that all makes perfect sense. I guess whilst you've been sharing that response, I've been thinking, like, from a leader's perspective, listening to this, like, I think that it makes sense for the individual that they have space, right, where they can go and speak to somebody that's trusted to be able to really work through their personal experience of a specific scenario. I'm thinking from a preventative standpoint, thing that springs to mind for me is, like, we need to make sure when we're recruiting is that we're actually maybe checking for narcissism in some way. Is there a specific like personality test or anything like that that could really highlight this? And I know we're in kind of like dodgy territory now, because there's certain things that we're supposed to ask and not ask during onboarding and stuff like that. But I think that's one of the key ways to protect people within the workplace, right? Is to just not surround them with narcissists as much as possible. Or is that just optimistic?
I think it's a wonderful thought and strategy. I wonder if it is optimistic, because remember, most narcissists are highly intelligent. And again, we all know what we should do and what we should say. And I mean, I don't know, someone's going to shoot me down for saying this, but most psychological tests, personality tests, you can manipulate them depending on your outcome. And like, I can do that because I have the knowledge. If you listen enough or you read enough, you can manipulate the outcome. But what I would say is I think it's more one-to-one training. It's having strong therapists, actually. It's having strong coaches. It's having strong HR people who actually can challenge people. Because again, I'll go back to what makes a good leader in training, right? I mean, you'll know more about this working in the corporate wellness space than me, Charlotte, but so you can help me here. But how many times do we go back to our emotional intelligence, be approachable, be friendly? We can put that on. Within the space of a day's training or onboarding process of a weekly check-in. But what really is that? We always, in training, even in workshops in the workspace, we only ever talk about these things on a superficial level. We never go into rewiring of the psyche. So therefore, when you're being optimist in change, well, it's just sugarcoating. And unless we go deep into the wiring of trying to change what that looks like for an individual, I don't know how much that would change.
But I think you're right. People can trick the system, right? But I think there's got to be things that can be done at that beginning period to at least give you a higher percentage of success, like perhaps going deeper into people's references and get a more of a longer term view of somebody that they're recruiting, to check perhaps consistencies with certain behaviors and stuff like that. There's got to be small things that can be done practically, that are done in tandem and parallel to going deep within the psyches. There's leaders listening to this, I know 100%, that are like, I'm not giving all my staff one-to-one therapy. Even if I'd love to, they're not going to pay for that. They're not going to do it. They might give them access to an EAP where they've got some quality people attacked, like to for them to go to and signpost them. But there's got to be some other ways for us to like embed this stuff. And I don't think we're going to just suddenly have the answer. And I don't think you're just suddenly going to tell me this is the magic pill that we need to take to, you know, get rid of narcissism. Like, I don't think that's the case, but I think it needs to be part of a conversation. I think it needs to be something that's at least being considered when we look at creating a culture of well-being, because it's overlooked so drastically.
Yeah, I would definitely say it's having deeper workshops or trainings as a first batch, right? First phase within the workplace, because how many parts of a full morning session are purely on emotional communication? There aren't that many, right? Or, you know, giving practical tools and skills of communicative, empathetic validation. It doesn't happen, right? So I would say it's probably more workshops like those, like going into a company, running those, really talking about it, getting into the weeds of what this is. Because we can all say, be friendly, be a better listener, right? Don't invalidate, don't dismiss. But what does that actually look like? How does that actually sound? And in my experience, we always finish on that superficial level. We don't go deeper in that training.
Definitely. And that not only is that common, there's also lack of accountability following these trainings, right? It's like a one and done mentality of we'll come, we'll talk about things roughly, we'll never like look behind the curtain, and then after the training we won't speak about it again. Like that is
but I know, and I don't want to put things down. Like, I do yoga and I do meditate, right? And they're great. They are absolutely great things. But in the workplace, when we do, like, I don't know, some sort of wellness event, is that really going to change the way we are interacting and building relationships for a better team dynamic? Not really, right? So the wellness strategies that are used, I just feel like we need to go deeper.
Well, this is it, right? And our listeners to this podcast, I'm sure if you've listened to previous episodes, they will know that that's why this podcast exists, right? What we talk about is that ecosystem and the relationship between the levers that are affecting an individual's wellness, rather than just wellness, here, do this breathing activity and you're good kind of thing, right? Like, this is all about integrating all of these elements so people understand, you know, why do we even need to breathe? Right? Like, they're not even questioning that when they spend money on these wellness events most of the time. It's like, oh, that's a nice thing we saw on Instagram, you know, or LinkedIn. Let's just bring that in. Like, there's not even much thought, often, not always, but behind why do we even need to regulate, and understanding the deeper nuances. Like, so that's the bridge we're trying to connect.
I think it's really simple. It's a complicated statement, what I'm about to say, but great leaders don't need to do all of these bells and whistle things.
Exactly.
Right? If they can truly be empathetic, nurturing, just enough push, right? Providing an amazing soil for their colleagues, co-workers, team, whoever they are, they will give you loyalty until they literally cannot push anymore. If you create that emotional relationship with your team, right, and they feel that you've got them, they will give you everything you need and you will get the best results, and they will work until they can't work anymore. And it's that word of loyalty. If you can truly access that from a healthy standpoint, you don't need all the bells and whistles.
100%. But I think it's easy for people to do what everybody else is doing, isn't it? And I think that's a bit of a trap that we've fallen in, definitely in this region, but generally when we look at corporate wellness. So like, I'm really happy that you've been here today to talk about this, because it's like we need to continue to go deeper from different angles in different ways, because there'll be somebody listening to this that's like, maybe that is actually just highlighted something within their team that actually, if we can deal with this scenario or this person, or give these people the support that they need, right, and work on some development, maybe that is enough to just like steer the ship in a bit of a healthier direction, because it's not going to just suddenly happen overnight, right?
But the most simplest statement of today, we are emotional because we are human.
Yeah.
And we forget that.
Yep.
And if we don't put emotion at the forefront of anything we do,
yep.
even in the workspace,
yeah,
we're not going to meet those targets. We're not going to thrive
yep.
because we are driven by emotion. And people don't want to admit that. But
No,
it's true.
we're scared of saying the word emotion. It drives me nuts when I see these like mindset courses and things like this. And I get it. I understand. It took me a while to understand, like, okay, well, what's like when I started to really understand what's driving our mindset in the first place, right? Like I think it's a bit of a journey that people have to go on to perhaps realize this rather than just take somebody's word for it, but admit it. I think that's the thing. And people talk about mindset, mental health, mental health, but the word emotion rarely gets used.
Wow. I know, but I say this to my clients all the time, like, sadness is great, anger is great, frustration is great. All of those emotions are fantastic because they are telling us something. Yep. It's how we can regulate and communicate and behave following that emotion is not.
Yeah.
Right? It's telling you something's up and we don't listen to it.
Yeah.
Or we don't necessarily behave or communicate it in a healthy way.
I think that's another episode.
Yeah.
Charlie, listen, thank you so much for diving into this topic today and for your insights on this. Is there anything else, kind of final thought, anything else that perhaps you want to mention that I haven't asked you that you think perhaps our listeners need to hear?
No, I would just say if people ever do want a corporate workshop or they do want to reach out for personal therapy and you want to talk about anything that we've talked about today, then feel free. I always try and help where I can.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're not alone, and we don't need to hurt, is probably what I would say.
Nice. Thank you so much. For our listeners that want to also perhaps go and binge and listen to the other conversations we've had with Charlie, then please do. The Relationships at Work episode was obviously on this podcast, season 1, episode 13. And Charlie was actually also a guest on our other podcast, which is called Stress Relief in Your Pocket. So if you're not listening to that already, go ahead and do so, because we had a really good conversation on relationship stress as well, specifically. So there's lots for our listeners to go and kind of follow you and kind of binge what you're up to. Where's the best place for them to come and find you as well?
Yeah, so they can find me on LinkedIn or on my website, which is charlottesberwaite.com, or if they're on Instagram, it's Charlie's Psychology. So thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.